This is a Technics SU-C01 preamp, and you've probably been tantalized by this or repulsed when you watched the video about the Macintosh. It kept peeking into frame, so I might as well do this one while I'm here. And as you can see, very basic preamp. You know, it's got tone controls, it's got the balance around the volume, this, which I don't love, but it's serviceable. Tape monitor, and 2 line level inputs, and a phono preamp, and this. So it has some interesting features you may not see always. The phono preamp, you can select whether you want there's not 2 sets of RCAs on the back. As you can see, oh, can you? There it is. There's 1 set of phono inputs, but then where it goes between there and the volume, you select here, whether you want to go through a moving magnet or moving coil preamp. So that's a nice touch. I have had moving coil cartridges, but not for a long time, and not since I got this, so I've never tried out that input to see how good it is. But this sounds pretty good. I'll get to that in a minute. Other features that are nice: a high filter, which I would rarely use, a subsonic filter, which is a godsend when you have tons of vinyl from God knows where. And if you watched the post on the MC2505, you heard the story about how subsonic noise, not good. And the loudness, that, and the tone controls, I mentioned them in the post about the Marantz integrated 1070. I cannot live without these things. I hate seeing these new preamps that don't have these things. I remember I bought an Adcom 750 about 15 years ago in 2000, 2001, and it didn't have those things, and it drove me nuts, and I had to get rid of it for that reason, even though it was class A or B in stereophile, and it had a remote, which this doesn't. So I really prefer having these things, especially because you don't know what the source material is going to be from your records. You don't know what kind of speakers you've got, what mood you're in, if you want a lot of bass that day. So those are very helpful things to have. A few quirks with this I've noticed. I tried taking 2 Y adapters and putting them back to back and using the tape monitor switch as a mono switch. You know, wiring the tape monitor to itself, but in mono. So if I wanted mono to hit this, well, for about a week I had it like this, and it was driving me nuts. I thought, whether it's in or out, I don't think it sounds the same. Am I listening to a disc that's really narrow stereo and I don't realize? Well, it turned out plugging in the Y cables, whether this is engaged or not, made it mono all the time. So I didn't need that, so I took it out. That's the one thing I don't like about this, is that there is no mono switch. The reason for that is probably because this is from the early 80s, and they figured, hey, we don't have space or desire to have such a thing. I'd gladly trade this high filter switch for that. I think that's better for if you're listening to FM, which I don't do anymore, and trying to tape it, and you don't want to get the birdies from the 19 kilohertz tone for FM stereo. You've probably seen it on a lot of older decks, something called a MPX filter. That's what that is. And I'm guessing this is a similar thing. Or a lot of older discs with surface noise, 78s even, put that. Seems weird that they would put in a provision that would help you with 78s and not to listen in mono, but what do I know? So this was Technics. You see how small it is. Just to give you an example, here's a sheet of paper. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and look, it just about covers the top. So that shows you how small this unit really is. And despite that, and I've shown you all the features, it's also got oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it had 4. I thought it only had 2 inputs. It's got a pre-out, a tape loop, and the other features I mentioned. The thing that I like about it, not only is it compact, but it had matching components, and I can't remember, I think there was a tuner. This is a preamp, so there must have been a power amp. And then I believe the SL5 turntable was supposed to sort of match this. It wouldn't fit on top. It would be way too deep. But I think that was supposed to match this. And there's actually a hilarious commercial online with 2 Japanese guys. They look sort of like they would be Laurel and Hardy. And they're singing about compact Compo. And I believe they're singing about this line of components. And the big guy is singing about these, and the little guy is singing about a giant entertainment system with a television and high-end Technics turntable. So the kids always say compact Compo, and I'm sure that's what the C is for. This was around 1979-80. About 4 years later, they had something called the 315 series, which I'm assuming it was a cross, that it was 315 millimeters. I know it was 315 millimeters. I don't know if it was a cross or the depth or what. And those, it was arranged a little different. The SL5 definitely fit on top of those. If you can find a Technics catalog from that year, they show you that, and it came with a stand and a pair of speakers. I mean, didn't come with, but those were in the 315 line. And you could use these components with anything, but put all together, it was a very neat, compact setup, and it had this sort of like E-shaped, E without the center tine, if that's the word, serif, I don't know. And you put the components in that, and then you put the SL5 on top. SL5, for those of you that don't know, is a linear tracking turntable they made. I had an SL6, and I'll tell you about that in another post. But the 5 would sit on top of this shelving unit, and inside would be, I think, a power unit maybe, and maybe a preamp, and then power amp, I'm not sure. But they also had something, the SAK5, which was a cassette deck, amp, and preamp, or maybe just a cassette deck and preamp, and tuner, all rolled into one. So cassette deck, preamp, tuner, and then maybe a power amp, all rolled into one. The SAK5, that has proven incredibly elusive. I saw one for sale once on eBay Japan, and I actually asked a friend of mine, this is when I lived in Chicago, whose wife was from Australia, and her brother lived in Japan, if maybe they could hook me up, but it never worked out. And then I've seen the service manual occasionally on eBay in America, and I think I may have seen one as part of the whole 315 series, a whole set, once on eBay a few years ago in Florida, and I was going to bid on it, and I decided not to. But that has proven very elusive. But that all stems from this first compact series. And unlike that one, or maybe like it, I think these will do it as well as the 315 series. You could also get some sort of bracket, and you carried it, and it became a boombox, which seems like the world's most intricate, heavy, and high-fidelity boombox for no reason. So there you have it, the Technics SU-C01 preamp.